This is you. You were born in a neighborhood where the sirens are the city's lullaby, and the only law that matters is gravity. What goes up must come down. Your father was a janitor at the courthouse, a man who swept the floors of justice but never tasted it. He died of a preventable lung disease because the factory next door didn't want to pay for filters. Your mother cleaned houses for the people who owned that factory. You learned early that the world isn't divided into good and bad, but into those who write the rules and those who get crushed by them. You don't have muscles, you can't fight, but you have a mind like a serrated blade. You read law books, you stole from the public library by flashlight under your blanket. You memorize statutes like other kids memorize rap lyrics. You realize that words are cheaper than bullets, but infinitely more lethal. You get into a state college on a hardship scholarship, the only kid in class wearing a suit from Goodwill that smells like mothballs. You are hungry, not for food, but for a voice. You start as a public defender. You are drowning in cases, representing the dregs of society, drug addicts, petty thieves, single mothers caught stealing formulae. You lose mostly because the system is a machine designed to grind poor people into dust. But then you get him, a low-level runner named Mateo, accused of killing a cop. The evidence is stacked. DNA, witnesses, motive. Everyone tells you to plead it out, but you find a discrepancy in the timestamp of the body cam footage. A 3-minute gap. You obsess over it. In court, you cross-examine the lead detective with a ferocity that terrifies the judge. You tear his credibility apart. You expose the plant. You get an acquittal. You walk out of the courthouse feeling like a god. But the celebration is short. A black Maybach pulls up to the curb. The window rolls down. It's not Mateo. It's a man in a bespoke Italian suit wearing a watch that costs more than your childhood home. He smiles, but his eyes are dead. He tells you that Mateo was his nephew. He tells you that he's never seen anyone dissect a lie like you did. He makes you an offer. He will pay off your student loans. He will buy your mother a house. He will give you a life you can't even imagine. All you have to do is be his voice. You hesitate. You think about your father sweeping floors. You think about the factory that killed him. Then you look at the check he slides across the leather seat. It has 6 zeros. You get in the car. That is the day you die. The person who steps out of that car years later is someone else entirely. You are no longer a lawyer. You are an architect of impunity. Your training isn't in a classroom. It's in the VIP rooms of strip clubs, in the back offices of shell corporations. You learn the real law, not the one in the books, but the one in the shadows. You learn that a judge's ethics cost exactly $50,000 and a bottle of 30-year-old scotch. You learn that a witness can't testify if they suddenly decide to vacation in a hole in the desert. You become the cleaner. You don't mop up blood, you mop up consequences. You rise through the ranks. You are the consigliere to El Santo, the biggest drug lord in the hemisphere. You wear suits woven from vicuña wool. You drive an Aston Martin. You have a penthouse that looks down on the smog and the filth you came from. But you are hollow. You have a team, a dark reflection of a legal firm. There's the lens, a private investigator who is actually a former spook, capable of digging up dirt on a saint. There's the quill, a forger who can create a paper trail for a ghost. And then there is you, the mouth. You win impossible cases. When El Santo's shipment of fentanyl kills 50 kids in a school district, you don't argue innocence. You countersue the shipping company for negligence, muddy the waters with expert witnesses you paid off, and drag the case out until the grieving parents run out of money and settle for silence. You walk out of court, cameras flashing, looking solemn. Inside, you feel nothing. You have learned to turn off your conscience like a light switch. You justify it by telling yourself you're just a tool, a hammer. It's not the hammer's fault if it hits a thumb, but the abyss stares back. One day, a new district's attorney comes to town. Sarah, you knew her. You went to law school together. She was the one who shared her lunch with you when you couldn't afford one. She was the one who believed in justice when you were already cynical. She is incorruptible. She builds a RICO case against El Santo that is watertight. She has a witness, an accountant who knows where the bodies are buried, literally and financially. El Santo calls you to his hacienda. He's eating a steak, blood running onto the china. He slides a dossier across the table. It's Sarah's file. He doesn't tell you to kill her. That's crude. He tells you to break her. He tells you that if she testifies, the whole empire falls. And if the empire falls, you go to a prison where the guards will look the other way while the inmates peel your skin off. You have 48 hours. You go to work. You use the lens to hack her life. You find nothing illegal, but you find something else. Her brother is in rehab, paid for by state funds. But there's a paperwork error you can exploit to make it look like embezzlement. You construct a narrative. You forge emails. You create a scandal out of thin air. You meet her. She looks tired, but determined. She thinks you're there to cut a deal. You slide the envelope across the table. You tell her that if she proceeds with the case, Her brother goes to prison for fraud, and her career is over. You watch the light go out in her eyes. You watch the betrayal break her heart. She asks you, how do you sleep at night? You tell her, on silk sheets. She drops the case. 2 days later, she's found in her apartment, an overdose of sleeping pills, a suicide note that apologizes for a crime she didn't commit. You are at a gala when you hear the news. You are holding a glass of champagne. El Santo claps you on the shoulder, laughing, calling you a genius. You killed her without touching her, he whispers. That is true power. Something inside you snaps. It's not a loud crack. It's the quiet sound of a piano string breaking in an empty room. You look at your reflection in the glass doors. You don't see the suit. You don't see the power. You see your father coughing his lungs out, ashamed of what you've become. You realize you are not the lawyer. You are the factory that killed him. You leave the party. Go to your office. It's 3 a.m. You open the safe behind the painting. You don't take the cash. You take the black ledger, the physical copy of every bribe, every murder, every payoff you orchestrated for El Santo. It is a death warrant of the most dangerous man on earth. You know you can't just mail it. The police, the FBI, the judges, half of them are on the payroll. You need to get it to the one journalist El Santo couldn't buy. A guy operating out of a basement in the capital, 4 hours away. You get in your car. You put the ledger in the passenger seat. You start the engine. It purrs like a tiger. You pull out of the garage. But El Santo is paranoid. He has a tracker on your car. His security chief calls you. Where are you going, counselor? To file a motion. You say, at 3 a.m., justice never sleeps. Neither do we. You hang up. You floor it. The police. They are the execution squad you usually defend in court. The chase is a blur of adrenaline and physics. You're not a driver, but you are a strategist. You know the roads. You know the law of motion. They try to box you in. You brake check the lead SUV, sending it spinning into the median. You take an exit ramp at 100 miles per hour. The tires screaming like banshees. You call the journalist. You tell him you are coming. You tell him to be ready to broadcast. You tell him that if you don't make it, the files are set to auto-upload from a cloud server you just activated, but the encryption key is in your pocket. It's a lie, but a good lawyer always bluffs. You are 10 miles away. Your car is smoking. Bullets have shattered the rear window. You're bleeding from a graze on your shoulder. You feel alive for the first time in 10 years. You are finally defending the right client, the truth, but the road ends. A roadblock. Corrupt state troopers paid by El Santo. They have spike strips. You have a choice. Stop and die, or drive and die like a man. You look at the ledger next to you. You look at the photo of Sarah you kept in your wallet. Objection, you whisper. Overruled. You don't slow down. You aim for the gap between the cruisers. You hit the spikes. The tires blow. The car flips. The crash is deafening. Metal screams as it tears. You land upside down in a ditch. The silence returns. You're hanging by your seatbelt. You can't feel your legs. You smell gas. You see boots approaching, shiny black boots. You struggle to reach the ledger. You grab it. You manage to pull out your lighter. It's a gold Zippo, a gift from El Santo. The security chief leans down. He smiles. Closing arguments, counselor? You look him in the eye. You flick the lighter. Case dismissed. You drop the lighter onto the gasoline-soaked upholstery. The explosion lights up the night sky. A brilliant, blinding gavel strike that echoes for miles. You don't survive, but in the morning, the fire investigators find the remains of the ledger. It's damaged, but the central drive hidden inside the binding, a titanium-encased USB, is intact. The news breaks at noon. El Santo is arrested. The judges are disbarred. The system shakes. You died a criminal, but you will be remembered as the witness who finally took the stand. And somewhere, in the quiet dark, your father is finally proud.